The smoke tasted like a lie, clinging to the back of your throat, thick with cheap tobacco and whispered promises. It coiled in the jaundiced lamplight, turning the faces of the men around the table into shifting, monstrous masks. Every surface was sticky, a testament to spilled rum and unwashed hands, and the only sound louder than the frantic beat of your own heart was the scrape of a knife being sharpened on a whetstone. This is where it all begins, not with the clash of steel on a sun-drenched quarterdeck, but here in the shadows, where a single misplaced word can be more deadly than a cannonball. It's funny how we romanticize this era, isn't it? The grand ships, the treasure, the swashbuckling adventure. But the reality, for most, was a short, brutal life that often ended right here, in a grimy corner over a dispute that nobody would even remember a week later. It's a world built on desperation, not glory. Hello everyone, and welcome. Tonight we delve into the swashbuckling world of the golden age of piracy, but from a perspective you probably won't survive. Imagine the salty air whipping through your hair as you trudge across the creaking planks of a pirate ship, the sunset painting the sky in fiery hues. You're Eleanor Nellie Bishop, ship's carpenter, and tonight, your world is about to be turned upside down. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It truly helps the channel find others who might appreciate these quiet stories. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in a smoky, dimly lit tavern in Port Royal. The air hangs thick with the smell of rum and sweat, a perfume you've come to associate with both opportunity and profound danger. A tense silence hangs over the group of hardened sailors crammed into this back room, and you feel a prickling sense of unease, though not for the reasons the others do. For them, it is the quiet before a storm. For you, it is the quiet before the trap you've so carefully set is sprung. Your hands, resting on the sticky tabletop, don't look like they belong to a woman. They are tools. The palms are a landscape of calluses, the knuckles scarred, the fingernails permanently rimmed with a mixture of tar, sawdust, and grime. They can measure a length of oak by sight, drive a nail home in 2 swings, and feel the subtle weakness in a mast that could doom a ship in a squall. They are carpenter's hands. And tonight they are clenched into fists beneath the table, waiting. You shift on the hard-backed chair, the worn wood groaning in protest. You take a slow, deliberate sip from your tankard. The rum is cheap, burning a trail down your throat, but it helps sharpen the edges of your focus. Your gaze drifts across the room, analytical, assessing. You aren't here to drink or to revel. You are here to work, though your tools are words, not saws and hammers. Your work is manipulation, and the material you're shaping is the pride of foolish men. Beside you, a heavy sigh breaks the quiet. Nellie, this is a fool's errand, a low voice rumbles, so close only you can hear. It's Henry Every, your cousin, the ship's sailing master. His face, usually a stony map of navigational certainties, is creased with worry. He's a man who understands tides and stars, wind and current. He does not understand, nor does he approve of, the treacherous currents of human nature you so love to navigate. It's necessary, Henry, you murmur back, your eyes never leaving your target across the room. You know it is. Necessary to risk our berths? Our necks? He shakes his head, his stubborn jaw set. Blackheart Bill is the first mate. You can't just orchestrate his downfall in a tavern. Quote, I'm not orchestrating his downfall, you lie smoothly, the words tasting as cheap as the rum. I'm just creating an opportunity for justice. Henry snorts, a sound of pure disbelief. He knows you better than that. He knows your brand of justice is always self-serving. He knows your hot temper is a forge, and tonight you are trying to craft a very specific, very sharp weapon. Your target, Blackheart Bill, is everything you despise in a man who holds power over others. He's a mountain of unwashed flannel and greasy leather, with a beard that looks like a flock of crows dyed in it. He's laughing now, a loud, wet sound that makes the lanterns flicker. He just cheated a young sailor out of a week's pay in a game of cards and is now basking in the glow of his petty victory. He's cruel for sport, powerful by brute force, and, most importantly, arrogant enough to be predictable. He is the reason you've spent the last 3 weeks plotting. The event you have envisioned, the one that plays out in your mind over and over, is a duel. A formal affair on the quarterdeck of the Sea Serpent at sunset. But you can't challenge him. A woman, a ship's carpenter, challenging a first mate, they'd laugh you into the stocks. No, you need a proxy, a champion, and you think you've found him. Your eyes slide to the man sitting next to Blackheart Bill, Thomas, the ship's gunner. A good man, a proud man, whose younger brother was the one Bill just fleeced. Thomas is simmering, his knuckles white where he grips his tankard. He has the motive. He has the pride. He just needs a push, a little nudge, into the abyss. That's your role, the architect of his rage. Just leave it be, Nellie, Henry pleads one last time. For once. Before you can answer, a new presence enters the suffocating little drama. A boy, no, a young man, weaves through the tables, a tray laden with fresh tankards held precariously in his hands. He's Rowan Fitzpatrick, an indentured servant from Ireland, sold to the tavern to work off his passage. He moves with a nervous energy, but his eyes hold a spark of defiant humor. He's thin, with a thatch of red hair that refuses to be tamed, and a dusting of freckles across a face that seems too sensitive for a place like this. He is, in every conceivable way, your opposite. As he sets down fresh drinks at Blackheart Bill's table, he nearly trips, sloshing ale onto the floor. "Watch it, you clumsy ox!" Bill bellows, his good mood evaporating instantly. Rowan flushes, a deep crimson that's visible even in the dim light. He rights himself and mumbles an apology. "Forgive me, sir. The floor here is as unsteady as a sailor's promise." Quote, a few of the men chuckle. It's a clever line, delivered with a self-deprecating smile. You find yourself almost smiling, too. It's the kind of quick wit you can appreciate. But your smile dies when you see the look on Bill's face. He doesn't appreciate wit, especially from someone he considers less than human. "What did you say, boy?" Bill says, his voice dangerously low. Rowan, bless his sensitive, foolish heart, doesn't seem to register the immediate peril. He's trying to disarm the situation with more humor. "I said, sir, that a promise is a tricky thing. Easy to make, hard to stand on. Much like a floor slick with your spilled—" "Are you calling me a liar?" Bill stands, his chair scraping violently against the floorboards. The entire room falls silent. Even the man sharpening his knife pauses. This is not the plan. This is a deviation. You needed to whisper poison into the gunner's ear, to stoke his anger about the card game, to gently guide him toward a noble, righteous challenge. You did not account for a humorous, indentured boy accidentally stepping into the role of the target. Rowan's humor finally deserts him. He looks like a cornered animal, his eyes wide as he stares up at the towering first mate. No, sir, of course not. It was just a jest." "I don't like jests from your kind," Bill snarls, taking a menacing step forward. "I don't like the way you look at your betters. I don't like your face." You feel Henry's hand on your arm, a silent warning. Don't. Stay out of it. This is your chance, isn't it? To sit back and watch. Let Bill work himself into a rage. The gunner, Thomas, is watching, his face a thundercloud. Perhaps seeing this bully torment a helpless boy will be the final spark he needs. Your plan could still work. It's messy, but the outcome might be the same. Rowan is just collateral damage, an acceptable loss. But then, you look at Rowan, at the genuine fear in his eyes, mixed with a stubborn flicker of pride that refuses to be extinguished. He's the antagonist to your entire philosophy. You believe in control, in careful manipulation, in using people as pieces on a board. He just stumbled in, armed with nothing but a joke and a clumsy apology, and has caused more trouble for you and for himself than you could have managed with an hour of careful scheming. He is the opposite of you, and for some reason that you can't quite name, that irritates you more than anything. Your temper, that hot and familiar friend, begins to rise. This is wrong. It's sloppy. This oaf, Blackheart Bill, is a blight. He needs to be put down, yes, but not like this. Not by terrorizing a boy who has nothing. Blackheart Bill reaches out and shoves Rowan hard. The boy stumbles back, his tray of tankards crashing to the floor in a cacophony of shattering pottery and splashing ale. The room holds its breath. Thomas, the gunner, looks torn, his fury for Bill now mixed with the common sailor's reluctance to defend an indentured servant. He won't act. You see it in his eyes. He won't do it. Your proxy is a coward. Henry's grip tightens on your arm. "Eleanor," he whispers, using your full name. He only ever does that when he's truly afraid of what you'll do next. Your plan is in ashes. The carefully constructed path to a duel on the quarterdeck has been washed away by spilled ale. And in its place is this raw, ugly, and immediate injustice. You look from Bill's leering, triumphant face to Rowan's frightened one, and you feel that familiar, dangerous heat rising in your chest. The heat that has gotten you into so much trouble. The heat that tells you to hell with plans. You slowly, deliberately, remove Henry's hand from your arm. You stand up. The scrape of your chair is the only sound in the suffocating silence. Every eye in the smoky backroom turns to you. The ship's carpenter. The woman who keeps to herself. The last person anyone expected to intervene. Blackheart Bill turns his sneer on you. "And what do you want, Chippy?" he grunts, using the derogatory slang for a carpenter. "Come to fix the floor?" Quote. You give him a slow, cold smile. Your mind is racing, forging a new plan from the wreckage of the old one. A much more direct and much more dangerous plan. "No," you say, your voice calm and clear, cutting through the smoky air. "I've come to ask you a question, first mate." In front of all these fine men. Blackheart Bill's piggy eyes narrow, a flicker of genuine surprise cutting through his drunken arrogance. The men around him lean in, their own petty squabbles forgotten in the sudden, sharp scent of a new conflict. The air grows tight, heavy with anticipation. Henry's presence beside you is a solid wall of dread. You can feel his desperation radiating off him like heat from a forge. "A question?" Bill finally repeats, a sneer twisting his thick lips. He crosses his beefy arms over his chest, a gesture of condescending power. And what could a Chippy possibly have to ask of her betters, whether the gallows is made of oak or pine? Quote. The men around him chuckle, a low, cruel rumble. They are a pack, and he is their alpha. They feed on his scraps of power. You ignore them. Your focus is a narrow, burning beam aimed directly at Bill. "I was just wondering," you begin, your voice still unnervingly calm, "if courage is a requirement for the position of first mate on the Sea Serpent, or if simple, brutish cruelty will suffice." The silence that follows is absolute. It is so profound you can hear the faint drip of condensation from a pipe in the corner of the room. You have not just questioned his authority, you have publicly challenged his honor, the only currency that truly matters in this world of outcasts and cutthroats. You've taken your carefully planned game of whispers and turned it into a public declaration of war. Bill's face transforms, the boorish humor draining away to reveal something ugly and murderous. His complexion darkens to a mottled purple. "You stupid bitch!" he hisses, his hand dropping to the hilt of the cutlass at his belt. This is it, the point of no return. But before his blade can clear the scabbard, a hand clamps down on his arm. It's Thomas, the gunner, the man you had written off as a coward. His face is pale, but his eyes are burning with a fresh fire, not for his brother's lost wages, but for the raw, undeniable injustice of a man preparing to cut down an unarmed woman. "That's enough, Bill," Thomas says, his voice tight. But before that confrontation can blossom, another voice cuts in, louder, more desperate. "The quarrel is not with her," quote. "It's Henry. He has moved from your side, stepping between you and Blackheart Bill. His body is a shield, his face set in a mask of grim determination. He looks nothing like the cautious navigator who pleaded with you moments ago. He looks like a man walking willingly into a hurricane. The insult was mine," he lies, his voice ringing with false conviction. "She spoke on my authority. If you have an issue, first mate, you have it with me." Quote, your heart plummets into your stomach. This is a catastrophe. This is the precise opposite of your intent. You wanted to use a pawn, not your king. "Henry, no," you breathe, but your voice is lost in the rising murmur of the crowd. Blackheart Bill stares at Henry, a slow, predatory grin spreading across his face. He sees it. The way out. A way to reclaim his honor without facing the ship's carpenter in a brawl that would make him look like a bully no matter the outcome, and without facing the grimly competent Thomas. But fighting the sailing master, that still carried risk. Then, the situation descends from disaster into utter absurdity. "No!" a voice pipes up, thin but clear. It's Rowan, the Irish boy. He has pushed himself up from the floor, ale and shards of pottery surrounding him like the wreckage of his dignity. There's a smear of dirt on his cheek, but his eyes, those sensitive, foolish eyes, are blazing with a terrifying sort of pride. The offense was to me. He pushed me. He called me what he called me. The sailing master is a good man to stand for another, but the argument, it's mine. Quote. You stare at him, dumbfounded. You feel as if you've meticulously arranged a set of dominoes, only to have a stray dog and a gust of wind knock them over in a pattern of pure, unadulterated chaos. Blackheart Bill lets out a booming laugh. It's a horrible, genuine sound of pure delight. He looks from Henry's stony face to Rowan's defiant one and back again. He claps his hands together as if he's just been presented with the evening's entertainment. Well now, he bellows to the room, we have a conundrum, a grand Port Royal mystery. Who has the right to be offended? The hot-headed carpenter? The stubborn master? Or the witty little servant? He strokes his filthy beard, playing to his audience. I have a solution, a way to settle this matter of honor, once and for all. Quote, he points a sausage-like finger, first at Henry, then at Rowan. You two, you both claim the insult, so you can fight for it. The winner will have earned the right to my anger. A sick, collective chuckle ripples through the room. We'll have a proper duel, on the quarterdeck of the Sea Serpent, at sunset tomorrow. Quote, Henry's face goes ashen. He opens his mouth to protest, to say this is madness, but Bill steamrolls over him. And to make it a true test of mettle, Bill adds, his eyes glinting with malice, it will be to the death. Quote, the words hang in the air, thick and poisonous, a duel, on the quarterdeck, at sunset. To the death. It's the event you had envisioned, the one you had coveted, the centerpiece of your grand manipulation. But the players are all wrong. It's a monstrous parody of your design. Instead of removing a festering boil from the ship's hierarchy, you have arranged for your own cousin to fight a penniless boy, likely to the death, for the amusement of the very man you meant to destroy. The back room erupts. The whispers begin instantly, swirling around you like the smoke from 100 pipes, carrying the news out into the tavern proper, and from there into the humid Port Royal night. A duel! Did you hear? The sailing master, fying an indentured boy. To the death. The story is already taking on a life of its own, twisting and turning with each telling. Men start clapping Henry on the back, offering him odds, their faces alight with the grim excitement of watching another man's tragedy. Others look at Rowan with a mixture of pity and contempt. The boy stands frozen, the reality of what he has just done finally crashing down on him. The defiant fire in his eyes has been extinguished, replaced by sheer, stark terror. Blackheart Bill, his dominance reasserted, his honor polished to a high sheen in the eyes of his cronies, gives you a final, triumphant smirk. You did this, it says. Your plan. Then he turns and swaggers out of the back room, the rest of the crew trailing in his wake, eager to spread the word and place their wagers. The room empties with astonishing speed, leaving a vacuum of silence and stale smoke. It's just you, Henry and Rowan. The trap you set has sprung, and its jaws have closed on the three of you. Henry turns to you, and the look on his face is something you've never seen before. It's not just anger. It's a deep, profound betrayal. Is this it, Nellie? He says, his voice a low, shaking tremor of fury. Is this the opportunity for justice you wanted? Quote, Henry, I never. Don't. He cuts you off, his jaw so tight a muscle jumps in his cheek. Don't you dare say you didn't intend for this. You lit the fuse. You always light the fuse, and you never care who gets caught in the blast. You just stand back and watch the show. He gestures with a shaking hand towards Rowan, who is now leaning against a table, his face buried in his hands. Look at him. He's a boy. A stupid, prideful boy. And I have to kill him tomorrow, or he has to kill me, because you couldn't leave well enough alone. I'll fix it, you insist, your mind racing, desperately trying to find a new angle, a new lever to pull. I'll talk to Bill. I'll challenge him myself, for real this time. You'll do nothing, Henry snarls, stepping closer. You've done enough. Any more of your fixing, and we'll all be swinging from a gibbet. The word is out. The duel is set. To back down now, for either of us, is a death sentence in itself. No crew will have us. We'd be marked as cowards from here to Madagascar. He's right. In the brutal calculus of this life, honor, once challenged, must be satisfied. To refuse the duel now would be a different kind of suicide. Slower, more humiliating, You turn your gaze to Rowan. He hasn't moved. He's just a boy, you think, sensitive and humorous. Your opposite. The antagonist who causes you trouble. The character Bible's description rings in your head like a mocking bell. You only vaguely know his history, that he's Irish, indentured, quick with a joke. But why would he do this? Why leap into a fire that wasn't his? Pride alone doesn't seem to cover it. Why? You ask, your voice softer now, directed past Henry to the boy. Why did you say it was your fight? Quote, Rowan lifts his head. His eyes are red-rimmed, his face pale and slick with sweat. He looks at Henry, not you. There's a strange, unreadable expression there. A mix of awe and despair. He stood up, Rowan whispers, his voice hoarse. He didn't have to. For me, a gentleman, a man of his station standing up for a bondsman. People don't do that. He swallows hard. Where I come from, a debt of honor is paid. I couldn't let him bear my punishment. The words hang there, foreign and nonsensical to your pragmatic mind. A debt of honor. He's willing to die for a gesture. He truly is your opposite. You look at Henry, expecting to see pity or frustration. Instead, you see something else. A flicker of grim understanding. A shared secret language passing between your stubborn cousin and this strange, poetic boy. It's a look that excludes you completely. It dawns on you then, with a cold, sinking certainty. This isn't just about what happened 5 minutes ago in this tavern. There is something else here, a history you don't know. A secret that binds these two, your trusted relative, and this troublesome stranger, together in a death pact. Henry turns his back on you, a final, cutting dismissal. He walks over to Rowan and places a heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. He says something too low for you to hear. Rowan flinches, then gives a slow, miserable nod. Your carefully laid plans, your manipulations, your grand design for a duel on the quarterdeck at sunset, it's all come to pass. And it is a nightmare of your own making. You stand alone in the wreckage, the smoke finally clearing to reveal the terrible, sharp edges of the truth. You are not in control. You have started something you don't understand, and the two men whose lives now hang in the balance are hiding something vital. And you, Eleanor Bishop, the master manipulator, have absolutely no idea what it is. Henry doesn't look back. He guides Rowan out of the room with a firm hand on his shoulder, leaving you in a sudden, ringing silence. The air is still thick, with the ghosts of men and the sour stench of spilled ale, but the chaotic energy has vanished, sucked out of the room in their wake. You are left standing in the center of your own disaster, a general surveying a battlefield where your own army has turned its guns on itself. The quiet is an accusation. Your heart, which was pounding with the thrill of the confrontation, now beats a slow, heavy rhythm of dread. This wasn't the plan. The plan was clean, elegant. A whisper here, a nudge there, a result that served your purpose and left you with clean hands. This is a bloody mess, and your fingerprints are everywhere. You sink back into your chair, the wood groaning under the sudden weight of your failure. You stare at the table, at the sticky rings left by tankards, and see the faces in the whirls of the wood. Henry's betrayed eyes. Rowan's terrified ones. Blackheart Bill's triumphant sneer. For a moment, you let the despair wash over you. It's a cold tide, pulling you under, but only for a moment. Despair is a luxury, an indulgence you cannot afford. Beneath the cold tide, the familiar heat of your temper begins to smolder again. Not the explosive rage from before, but a slow, focused burn. Anger at Bill for his brutishness. Anger at Rowan for his suicidal notion of honor. Anger at Henry for his stubborn secrecy. And a deep, searing anger at yourself for being so arrogant, so certain you could play these men like instruments. You were wrong. And Henry, your cousin, the only family you have in this godforsaken world, is going to pay the price for it at sunset tomorrow. No, you will not allow it. You push yourself to your feet, your purpose solidifying like cooling iron. You can't fix this with another public confrontation. Henry was right about that. The duel is a living thing now, with the momentum all its own. You cannot stop it head on. You must get ahead of it, find its weakness, and cut its throat in the dark. The weakness, the key to this entire tangled knot, is the secret shared between your cousin and the Irish boy. And since Henry has shut you out, your path is clear. You have to start with Rowan Fitzpatrick. You leave the back room, stepping into the main tavern. The atmosphere here is electric. Men are crowded in knots. Voices loud with speculation, hands exchanging coins as wagers are made. The odds, you overhear, are 10 to 1 against the servant boy. No one expects him to survive past the first pass. The whispers paint a grim picture. Some say he's a wanted man from Ireland, a killer hiding in servitude. Others say he's a fool who doesn't know one end of a blade from the other. You need to know which is true. You grab the arm of a passing serving girl, a haggard-looking woman with weary eyes. The Irish boy, Fitzpatrick, where does he sleep? Quote, she flinches, looking at you with fear. News travels fast. She knows who you are, what you started. I can't say, ma'am. Quote, you slide a silver shilling from your belt pouch, more than she makes in a week, and press it into her palm, closing her fingers around it. Your touch is firm, not a request. You can, you say, your voice low and devoid of warmth. Where? Quote. Her eyes dart nervously towards the bar, then back to the coin in her hand. The cellar storeroom, she whispers, her voice barely audible. Down the back stairs. But the master locked him in to make sure he shows for the thing tomorrow. Quote. You give a curt nod and release her. She scurries away, melting back into the chaos. Locked in. Perfect. A captive audience. The back stairs are narrow and smell of damp earth and rot. You descend into the cool dark, your hand trailing along a gritty stone wall. At the bottom, a single heavy plank door is held shut by a thick iron bolt slid into place. A primitive lock for a primitive situation. You pull a marlin spike from a concealed pocket in your trousers. It's a simple, tapered piece of steel used for splicing rope, but in your hands, it is a key. You jam the point into the gap between the bolt and its housing, find the leverage, and with a sharp, practiced twist of your wrist, you force the bolt back. It shrieks in protest, a loud, metallic scrape that echoes in the confined space. Then, silence. You push the door open. The room is little more than a closet, crammed with barrels of salted fish, sacks of dried beans, and the cloying smell of decay. A single lantern, its flame turned low, casts long, dancing shadows. And in the corner, sitting on an overturned crate, is Rowan Fitzpatrick. He looks up as you enter, his face a mask of pale terror. He scrambles to his feet, pressing himself back against a stack of barrels as if he could merge with them. He's not a killer. A killer would have reached for a weapon, a broken bottle, anything. Rowan just tries to make himself smaller. What do you want? He asks, his voice trembling. Information, you state, closing the door behind you and leaving the bolt undone. You don't want him to feel trapped. You want him to feel cornered. There's a difference. You're going to die tomorrow. I'd like to know why. I told you, he says, his gaze fixed on the floor. A debt of honor. Honor? You let out a short, sharp laugh devoid of any humor. Honor is what rich men call their pride. What does a penniless bondsman from Ireland know of it? What debt could possibly be worth your life? Quote, he remains silent, his jaw clenched. His hands are fidgeting, twisting the hem of his rough spun shirt. You step closer, your eyes scanning him, analyzing him. He's thin, underfed. His clothes are little more than rags. But it's his hands that draw your attention. In the tavern's grime, you hadn't seen them clearly. Here, in the lantern light, you see they are not the hands of a laborer. They are slender, with long fingers. There are no calluses from a sword hilt or a plow. There are, however, dark stains on his right index finger and thumb. Ink stains. On the crate where he was sitting lies a piece of scrap parchment and a small charcoal nub. He was writing. You're not a fighter, you say. It's not a question. It's a verdict. You've never held a sword in your life, have you? Quote. He flinches, the truth of your words hitting him like a physical blow. That's my business. It became my business when you put my cousin's life on the line, you snap, your patience wearing thin. You take another step, invading his space. My cousin, who, for some reason I cannot fathom, decided you were worth protecting. A man who values charts and stars over people. A man who hasn't done an impulsive thing in his life until tonight. So you are going to tell me, why him? Why did Henry Every, the most stubborn and risk-averse man I know, step in front of a blade for you? Quote, Rowan finally looks at you, and you see something flicker in his eyes beyond fear, anger. You talk about him as if he's a map you can't read, he spits out, a surprising venom in his tone. Maybe you're just reading it wrong. Maybe he's more than tides and currents. Maybe he's a good man. Quote, Good men die first in places like this, you counter coldly, and usually for stupid reasons. This feels like one of them. Talk. He shakes his head, turning away from you. I can't. You can't, or you won't. You circle him slowly, like a predator sizing up its prey. Let me guess. He knows you from before. From Ireland, maybe? Did he know your family? Did he make some promise to your sainted mother on her deathbed that he'd look after her precious boy? Your words are dripping with scorn, designed to mock, to provoke, to find a crack in his resolve. He whips back around, his face flushed. You know nothing, quote. Then enlighten me, you demand. Because in about 16 hours my cousin is going to stand on the quarterdeck with a cutlass in his hand, ready to kill a boy who knows more about poetry than parrying. Or worse, he'll hesitate. He'll try to spare you, and Blackheart Bill's cronies will call him a coward, or Bill himself will gut him for failing to follow the terms. Either way, this ends badly for him, and it all started because of you, so you owe me the truth. Quote, he stares at you, his chest rising and falling rapidly. The terror is still there, but it's warring with his stubborn pride. He looks from your unyielding face to the scrap of parchment on the crate. His shoulders slump in defeat. We are from the same town, Rowan says, his voice barely a whisper. County Cork. He left years ago, before everything went wrong for my family. He knew my father. Quote, and, you press, my father, he wasn't a fighter either, Rowan continues, a wave of grief passing over his features. He was a scholar, a teacher. He taught that a man's word was the only thing he truly owned, that a debt of honor was more binding than any law. He swallows, his throat working. When the soldiers came, when they took our land, my father spoke out. He didn't raise a fist. He used words. And they made an example of him. The storeroom feels colder now. You see the scene in your mind. The scholar, the soldiers, the futility of words against steel. Henry's father, Rowan says, his voice cracking, was the town magistrate. He was supposed to uphold the law, but he was a coward. He stood by and did nothing while they dragged my father away. He let it happen. Suddenly, the pieces shift. They don't form a complete picture, but the outline is there. This isn't just about Rowan. This is about Henry. It's about his father. A generational debt. Henry, your cousin. Rowan looks at you, his eyes pleading for you to understand. He is not his father. When he stood up for me tonight, in front of all those men, he was paying a debt his own family owed mine. He was doing what his father should have done. I saw it in his face. He was erasing that shame. How could I let him die for it? The insult was mine. The debt is his, but the fight has to be mine. Quote, you stand there, motionless, the puzzle rearranging itself in your head. It's not a secret pact. It's a secret shame. Henry isn't protecting Rowan out of affection. He's protecting him out of a deep-seated, inherited guilt. And Rowan, in his own misguided, poetic way, is trying to protect Henry from that same obligation. They are caught in a ridiculous, deadly cycle of honor. You look at the boy, truly look at him, and for the first time you don't see a nuisance or a variable. You see a terrified young man, trying to live up to his father's code in a world that has no place for it. You see the antagonist, your opposite, who has caused you nothing but trouble, and you finally understand that his every action is driven by a principle you can't comprehend. Self-sacrifice. And you realize with a sickening lurch that you can't manipulate this. You can't threaten or bribe your way out of a ghost story from County Cork. You have to find another way, a carpenter's way. You don't just smash a problem. You find the grain, the structural weakness, and you exploit it. The weakness here isn't Rowan. It isn't even Henry. It's the duel itself. Thank you, Rowan, you say, and the sincerity in your own voice surprises you. You turn and walk to the door, your mind already calculating, redesigning. The duel will happen, but the outcome is not yet written. And you are very, very good at cheating. You leave Rowan in that reeking cellar, the ghost of his father's honor hanging in the air between you. As you ascend the stairs back into the boisterous tavern, the noise of the crowd feels distant, unreal. The men are celebrating an impending death, but you are no longer a part of their petty drama. You have stepped outside of it. Their game is a duel with cutlasses at sunset. Your game is now infinitely larger, and it will be played in the shadows with a marlinspike and a secret. You slip out of the inn. the humid Port Royal night air a welcome relief from the smoke. The moon is a sliver, casting the narrow, muddy streets in deep shadow. You move with purpose, your worn leather boots making little sound on the damp earth. The docks are a forest of masts, a chaotic tangle of rigging stark against the star-dusted sky. The sea serpent is moored at the far end of the wharf, a dark, silent beast riding gently on the tide. Most of the crew, still drinking their wages away in town, won't be back for hours. Those already aboard will be dead to the world, lost in a drunken stupor. It's the perfect time for a carpenter to inspect her work. Getting aboard is second nature. You climb a mooring rope with the easy, silent grace of a spider, your calloused hands finding familiar holds. You drop onto the main deck, landing softly on the balls of your feet. The ship groans around you, a living thing settling in for the night. You know its every sigh and complaint. You know the fifth plank on the port side that creaks, the loose pin in the forward railing that whines in the breeze. You are a ghost in your own home, and you drift across the deck towards the officers' quarters. Your presence is unnoticed as the turning of the tide. Blackheart Bill's cabin is your destination. If a man like Bill has a secret big enough to kill for, and his willingness to let a boy and your cousin fight to the death over a simple insult suggests he does, he would keep it close. His cabin door is locked, naturally. A heavy iron-banded thing meant to keep out prying hands, but it was hung on hinges you yourself fitted. The lock is a standard brute force mechanism, not designed to thwart skill, only strength. You pull out your marlin spike again, along with a thin, flexible piece of wire you keep for delicate work. To you, a lock is just a simpler, more stubborn kind of puzzle than a ship's frame. You work by feel, listening to the faint clicks of the tumblers, your mind picturing the inner workings. After a minute of intense, silent focus, you feel the final pin give way with a soft snick. The lock is open. You slip inside, closing the door gently behind you. The air in the cabin is stale, thick with the smell of unwashed linen, stale sweat, and Bill's own particular brand of greasy arrogance. A single porthole lets in a sliver of moonlight, illuminating a chaotic mess. Charts are strewn across a small table, a dirty shirt is slung over a chair, and an empty bottle of rum lies on its side, a dark stain slowly spreading across the floorboards. You move with methodical precision, your hands running over every surface. You check under the lumpy mattress, inside the sea chest filled with his garish clothes, behind the loose panel where you know he keeps his stash of stolen silver. Nothing, just the predictable filth and petty treasures of a common bully. Frustration begins to gnaw at you. Henry's life is on a clock, ticking down to sunset, and you are wasting precious time in this pigsty. You stand in the center of the cabin, forcing yourself to think not like a thief, but like a carpenter. You built parts of this ship. You know its bones. You let your eyes drift over the construction of the cabin itself, the bulkhead wall behind the bunk, the heavy oak beams supporting the deck above. It is all standard, solid work. Almost. Your gaze snags on something. It's a detail so minor that no one else, not the captain, not the sailing master, not Bill himself, would ever notice. A single section of the wall paneling near the floor behind the bunk is made of Dutch oak. The rest of the ship's interior finishing is English oak. The grain is subtly different, the color a fraction of a shade warmer. You only know because you spent a winter refitting a captured Dutch merchantman and came to know the wood intimately. Why would one small, insignificant panel be different? It wouldn't, not unless it was added later, not unless it was meant to hide something. You kneel, your heart starting to beat a little faster. You run your scarred fingers over the wood, feeling for a seam, a catch, a release. Nothing. It's fitted perfectly flush, too perfectly. You press on one corner, then another. On the third try, you feel a faint give. A click, so soft it's more a vibration than a sound. A narrow section of the paneling, no wider than your hand, springs open, revealing a dark cavity within the bulkhead. Your hand dives into the opening. Your fingers brush against oilskin. You pull it out. It's a tightly wrapped bundle, secured with a leather thong. It feels heavy, dense. With trembling fingers, you unwrap it on the floor in the single shaft of moonlight. Inside is not gold or jewels. It's an old, leather-bound journal and a rolled-up piece of parchment. A map. You carefully unroll the parchment. It's not a standard navigational chart. The vellum is old, cracked, and brittle. The coastlines are strangely drawn, approximations of lands you barely recognize. But it's the markings on the open sea that make the breath catch in your throat. West of the Azores, in a stretch of ocean that is supposed to be empty, are a series of symbols. Not crosses for wrecks, but intricate drawings of ships. 5 of them. They are drawn in a precise formation, with annotations in archaic Spanish. Below the drawings is a name. La Flota Perdida de la Verdad, the Lost Fleet of Truth. Your hands are shaking now. Every sailor knows the legend of the Silver Fleet, but this is something else entirely. You open the journal. The leather is stiff, the pages filled with cramped, spidery handwriting, also in Spanish. Your own command of the language is functional, learned from captured sailors and port town arguments. You scan the pages, your eyes catching dates from over a century ago. The log belongs to a man named Captain Alvaro de Mendoza. He writes of a secret mission, sanctioned by the King of Spain himself. His fleet was not carrying silver. It was carrying proof. The words leap off the page, each one a hammer blow to your understanding of the world. Mendoza's fleet was transporting the original, signed treaties between Spain and Portugal, the documents that divided the New World between them. But they were also carrying a secret codicil, a hidden addendum to the treaty that granted Spain rights to vast territories currently claimed and colonized by England. The mission was to take the proof to a secret Spanish outpost in the Floridas, a base from which they could launch a legal and military challenge that would upend the entire English colonial project. But they never made it. According to the journal, the fleet was crippled by a hurricane and a subsequent outbreak of ship fever. Knowing they were doomed, and fearing the English would find them, Captain Mendoza made a desperate choice. He sailed his dying fleet to a chain of uncharted volcanic islands, a place he marks on the map as Las Islas del Silencio, the Silent Isles. There, he scuttled all 5 ships in a deep, sheltered caldera, taking the treaties and their world-shattering secret to the bottom of the ocean with him. His final entry is a prayer that God will keep his secret safe from heretics and pirates. You sit back on your heels, the journal heavy in your lap. The small cabin feels like the center of the world. This is what Blackheart Bill has. Not a map to gold, but a map to a secret that could ignite a war between the 2 greatest powers on Earth. A map that, in the right hands, is worth more than all the treasure in the Americas. Possession of this map means you could blackmail a king. You could dictate the future of nations. Or you could sell it to the English governor for a pardon, and a fortune so vast it would make Blackbeard's hoard look like a tavern keeper's till. Blackheart Bill didn't want to be a rich pirate. He wanted to be a kingmaker, and he was willing to kill anyone who got in his way. He wasn't just bullying a servant boy tonight. He was protecting this. The duel between Henry and Rowan isn't about honor. It's Bill's brutal, paranoid method of cleaning house, of eliminating anyone even tangentially involved in the argument that brought his secret into the light. You look down at the map, at the journal. You came here looking for a tool to dismantle a duel. Instead, you have found a weapon that can dismantle an empire. A slow smile spreads across your face, cold and sharp as a shipwright's ads. This changes everything. The duel is no longer a disaster you have to stop. It is a stage. And you have just rewritten the entire play. Blackheart Bill thinks he is the director, but he is about to find out that he is merely a character, and his part is about to come to a very abrupt and public end. You roll the map and tuck it, along with the journal, securely inside your shirt. You have the leverage you need. Now you just have to decide how best to use it. You slide the priceless bundle back inside your shirt. The cool oilskin, a shocking weight against your skin. It is the weight of empires, the burden of a secret you were never meant to know. Replacing the panel, you move with silent purpose, letting yourself out of Bill's cabin and relocking the door behind you. The satisfying click of the lock settling back into place is the sound of a cage being shut, but you are no longer certain who is inside and who is out. You retrace your steps across the deck of the Sea Serpent, a phantom moving through your own crime scene. Back on the wharf, the chaotic noise of Port Royal feels different, as if you are hearing it through water. The shouts and laughter of drunken sailors are the babblings of children playing a game whose rules they will never understand. You alone have seen the true shape of the board. Your first instinct, the one born of blood and shared history, is to find Henry. He needs to know what you found. He needs to know you have the key to his survival. You find him not at the tavern, but in a small, squalid room for rent above a cooperage, the rhythmic thump-thump of barrels being made below a constant, miserable heartbeat. The door is unlatched. You push it open without knocking. The room smells of fear. It's a cramped space, containing only a lumpy cot and a single rickety table where a candle sputters, casting more shadow than light. Henry is there, pacing the narrow floor like a caged bear. Rowan sits on the edge of the cot, his head in his hands, the picture of despair. They both look up as you enter, their faces etched with different kinds of dread. "Nellie," Henry says, his voice a low growl of warning, "I told you to stay out of it." Quote, "And when have I ever done as I'm told?" you retort, closing the door behind you. You don't look at Rowan. Your focus is entirely on your cousin, the man you came to save. "We need to talk. Alone." "There's nothing to talk about," he says, stopping his pacing to stand before you, a wall of stubborn muscle and resentment. "The duel is set. The sun will rise, the sun will set, and this mess you've made will be settled, one way or another." "And what if I told you there's a third way?" you say, your voice dropping, intense. "What if I told you I know why Blackheart Bill was so quick to see bloodshed over a clumsy joke?" Quote, Henry's eyes narrow. A flicker of something, not surprise, but a keen, calculating interest, crosses his face before he smothers it with a scowl. "I don't care about Bill's reasons. I care about the consequences you've forced upon us." It's a lie. You can feel the falseness of it, a discordant note in the air. He is trying too hard to seem indifferent. "Don't you, Henry?" You press, taking a step closer. You can see Rowan watching you from the cot, his face pale in the candlelight, his eyes wide. He looks like a frightened mouse. And you hate the part of you that still feels a sliver of pity for him. "Don't you care about a map to a place called Las Islas del Silencio?" Quote, the name hangs in the air. Henry's stony expression doesn't crack, but you see it. A tightening around his eyes, the almost imperceptible tensing of the muscle in his jaw. He knows he's been lying to you from the very beginning. The story about his father's shame, the magistrate in County Cork. It might be true, but it wasn't the reason he stepped forward. It was a convenient cover story, a piece of emotional blackmail to keep you from digging deeper. "You're spouting nonsense," he says, but his voice has lost its conviction. "Drunk on cheap rum and your own cleverness." Quote, "Am I?" You reach into your shirt and pull out the oilskin bundle. You place it on the small table between you. The sound it makes hitting the wood is soft, but it echoes in the room like a cannon shot. This was hidden in a false panel in Bill's cabin. A journal from a Spanish captain. And this. You unroll the parchment just enough for the drawing of the 5 scuttled ships to be visible in the flickering light. "La flota perdida de la verdad." Sound familiar? Because you look like a man who has just seen a ghost. Quote, Henry stares at the map, his carefully constructed mask of anger finally shattering. What replaces it is not relief or shock. It's the raw, naked hunger of a treasure hunter who has just seen his prize in another's hands. His deception is laid bare, not in his words, but in the avarice that burns in his eyes. He wasn't protecting Rowan out of guilt. He was using the chaos, using the boy, as a smokescreen for his own agenda. "You had no right," he finally whispers, his voice thick with a fury that is finally, chillingly real. He's not angry that you risked his life. He's angry that you found the treasure first. "No right?" You scoff, a bitter laugh escaping your lips. "You, my cousin, the man who lectures me on honesty, have been playing me since the moment we walked into that tavern. This whole story about your father, it was all a lie to keep me from seeing what you were really after." Quote, "The story is true," he snarls, jabbing a finger at you. "My father was a coward. But 2 things can be true at once, Nellie. I heard the whispers weeks ago. Bill, drunk, boasting of finding a king's ransom. I've been watching him, waiting for my chance. Tonight was a disaster. But when you opened your mouth, I saw a way to stay close to him, to make him think the fight was about honor. I stepped in for the boy to control the narrative, to keep the focus away from the real prize." Quote, you stare at him, the full scope of his betrayal washing over you. He is just like you. Manipulative, self-serving, and ruthless. He simply hides it better, behind a veneer of stubborn, stoic respectability. The line you always thought existed between you, his caution, your recklessness, was a fiction. You were just looking at two sides of the same tarnished coin. So you were willing to kill him? You ask, gesturing towards Rowan, who has remained unnervingly silent on the cot. For a map? Quote, I was willing to do what was necessary, Henry says coldly, his eyes never leaving the parchment. Just like you. The accusation strikes home, but before you can process the sting, another lie begins to unravel. You turn your head and look at Rowan. The boy is no longer hunched in fear. He's sitting upright, and the expression on his face is not one of a terrified victim caught between two predators. It's one of intense, frustrated concentration. He isn't looking at Henry or you. He's looking at the map. And there is no confusion in his eyes. There is only recognition. And you say, your voice dangerously quiet. The poor, indentured boy, willing to die for a debt of honor. What's your part in this charade? A sensitive soul who writes poetry on scrap parchment? Quote, Rowan flinches as if you'd slapped him. He looks up, his face a sudden blank canvas. The fear is back, but it looks painted on now. A desperate attempt to reclaim a role he has forgotten how to play. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? You say, walking slowly towards the cot. You tower over him. Henry was right. Two things can be true at once. Maybe your father was a scholar, but you're not here to pay a debt for him. Your hands are stained with ink, boy, but not from writing poetry. You're a cartographer, aren't you? Or a clerk. Someone who understands documents. You tap the journal with your finger. Someone who might be sent by, say, the English governor to find out if the drunken rumors about a Spanish secret were true. Quote, Rowan's face goes white. He opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. He looks at Henry, a silent, panicked plea for help. But Henry is still locked in his own private battle with you over the map. The boy is utterly alone, his cover blown to pieces. His accidental stumble, his witty retort to Blackheart Bill, it was all a performance. A calculated probe to get a reaction, to confirm Bill was the man he was looking for. The duel was an unforeseen complication, a disastrous turn that threatened to end his mission and his life. He is not your opposite. He is a more subtle, more polished version of you. You are standing in a suffocatingly small room with two liars, two strangers who wear the faces of your cousin and your antagonist. Every shadow, every word has been a lie. Your quest to save your family has become a squalid negotiation with a greedy treasure hunter and a government spy. So this is it, you say, looking from one to the other. The Grand Alliance. The stubborn sailor, the sensitive boy, and the hot-tempered carpenter. A nest of vipers. And all of us want the same thing. You place your hand flat on the map. This. It's mine, Nellie, Henry says, taking a step forward. I've been working on this for months. You stumbled into it. Quote, No, a new voice cuts in, stronger than you've ever heard it. It's Rowan. He stands up from the cot, his fear replaced by a cold, hard resolve you've never seen before. It belongs to the crown. It is a matter of national security. You are both English subjects. You will turn it over to me. You almost laugh at the absurdity. The boy, who moments ago was a trembling wreck, is now attempting to command you. The duel, Rowan, you remind him, a cruel smile playing on your lips. At sunset, you'll be a little too dead to deliver this to your governor. The three of you stand there, a triangle of deceit and broken trust. The thumping from the cooperage below is the only sound. A relentless clock ticking towards a sunset that now holds a dozen different possibilities for death and betrayal. Your plan to use this map to save Henry is in ashes. He doesn't deserve to be saved. He deserves to be fleeced. Your desire to spare Rowan has vanished, replaced by a cold contempt for the agent who played you for a fool. The lines are not blurred. They have been erased completely. You have no friends in this room. You are alone, with a secret that could start a war, trapped between your own kin who would see you cheated, and an enemy of your enemy who sees you as a mere obstacle. Blackheart Bill wanted a simple duel to the death. What he has unleashed is something far more dangerous. Oh, right, you say, your mind racing, calculating the new, terrifying geometry of the situation. The board has changed, so we're going to make a new set of rules. You roll up the map and the journal, the priceless secret held tight in your fist. The duel is still on. But the prize is no longer honor, and the fight is no longer just between you two. Quote, you look at Henry's greedy face, then at Rowan's cold, professional one. The prize is this, you say, holding up the bundle. And now, all three of us are in the game. The sun bleeds across the horizon, staining the turquoise water a violent shade of orange and purple. The air, thick and humid all day, finally begins to stir. A faint breeze carrying the scent of salt and tar across the deck of the Sea Serpent. It feels like the world is holding its breath. The entire crew is assembled on the quarterdeck, their faces a gallery of grim anticipation in the dying light. They form a rough, jeering circle, leaving a space in the center that feels as sacred and profane as a sacrificial altar. And at the head of it all stands Blackheart Bill, his bulk silhouetted against the spectacular sunset. He is in his element, a king presiding over a blood sport of his own creation. A jug of rum is in his hand, and he takes a long, gurgling swallow before wiping his mouth on his sleeve, a triumphant smirk plastered across his greasy face. He believes he has won. He believes he is in complete control. You stand apart from the crowd, leaning against the solid wood of the mizzenmast, the position giving you a clear view of the entire stage. Your hand rests on your belt, near the concealed bulk of the oilskin bundle. The map and the journal are a cold, heavy weight against your ribs, a secret that feels volatile enough to burn a hole through your shirt. You watch Henry and Rowan as they step into the circle, stripped to the waist, as is tradition. They are handed their weapons. Two identical, brutally simple naval cutlasses, their edges honed to a wicked sharpness. Henry looks exactly as you expect. Grim, solid, his feet planted wide on the deck as if he were taking root. He flexes his powerful hands around the hilt of the blade, his knuckles white. Rowan, by contrast, looks like a lamb being led to slaughter. His thin frame is pale in the twilight, and a tremor runs through his hands as he accepts the cutlass. He looks terrified, out of his depth, his eyes wide with a fear that seems utterly genuine. He is a consummate actor. You search for a glance, a signal, any flicker of the secret pact you know they must have forged in that room after you left. There is nothing. They are either masters of deception, or you have horribly miscalculated. The rules are simple, Blackheart Bill bellows, his voice slurring slightly from the rum. The fight is to the death. The first man to yield or to fall and not rise loses. The winner gets his honor back and a double share of the next prize. Quote, a ragged cheer goes up from the crew. They are sharks who smell blood in the water. Begin! Bill roars. For a heart-stopping second, nothing happens. Henry and Rowan circle each other, the setting sun glinting off their blades. Then, with a guttural yell, Henry lunges. The fight begins not with a tentative probing of defenses, but with a ferocious, brutal clash of steel on steel that rings out across the water. Sparks fly as their blades meet, lock, and scrape apart. The crew roars its approval, pressing closer. It is a brutal affair. Henry is a storm of raw power, his blows heavy enough to splinter oak, each one aimed to maim or kill. Rowan is a whirlwind of desperate energy, parrying, dodging, his movements seemingly clumsy, yet just effective enough to keep him alive. He stumbles back under Henry's assault, his face a mask of panic. It's a masterful performance. To the rum-soaked sailors, it is a classic contest of brute strength versus frantic speed. But you are not a sailor. You are a carpenter. You understand angles, leverage, and economy of motion. And what you are watching is a lie. You see it in the way Henry's killing blows land not on Rowan's blade, but on the strongest part of the boy's guard, creating the most noise and flash with the least amount of real danger. You see how Rowan's desperate dodges are not panicked reactions but precise, pre-planned steps, each one taking him exactly where he needs to go. They are not fighting. They are dancing. It is a violent, intricate, and deadly waltz, and every step is choreographed. Their chaotic battle is not random. It's moving. They are slowly, deliberately, arcing across the quarterdeck. Their movements force Blackheart Bill to move with them. He takes a step back to avoid a wide swing, a shuffle to the left to get a better angle, his eyes glued to the fight, his mind clouded with rum and arrogance. They are shepherding him, you realize, a cold dread mixing with a grudging admiration in your gut. They are herding their butcher towards a specific spot on the deck. Your eyes follow their trajectory, calculating the end point. They are moving him towards the port side, near the mainmast rigging. Your gaze darts upwards, scanning the familiar forest of ropes and spars. And then you see it. Coiled and tied off to the rail is a new top-gallant sail, a massive roll of heavy canvas wrapped around its yardarm, waiting to be hoisted. It's been there for 2 days, a routine piece of maintenance you'd barely noted. It is secured by a single, thick rope. Your breath catches in your throat. It's a plan of breathtaking audacity and beautiful simplicity. They took your idea of a public spectacle and refined it, weaponized it, using the ship itself as their accomplice. The final act begins. The fight intensifies, a flurry of steel and motion that draws every eye. Henry presses Rowan back, roaring with exertion, forcing the boy into a desperate retreat right in front of Bill. Bill, laughing, takes his final, fatal step backward to give the killing blow space, his back now inches from the coiled sail. Henry feigns a stumble, a brilliant piece of misdirection, leaving his chest exposed. "Now, boy, finish it!" he shouts. The crew gasps. This is the moment. Rowan lunges, his cutlass a silver blur in the last rays of sunlight, but he doesn't drive the point into Henry's heart. In a single, fluid motion that is anything but clumsy, he pivots. His lunge carries him past Henry, his blade swinging in a clean, horizontal arc. It doesn't cut flesh, it cuts rope. The sound of the thick hemp parting is a sharp, distinct thwack, almost lost in the noise of the crowd. For a fraction of a second, nothing happens. Then, with a groaning screech of wood, the heavy yardarm is released. It doesn't fall. It swings, pivoting on its remaining tether like a monstrous, horizontal guillotine. Blackheart Bill turns his head at the sound, his drunken smile turning to a mask of sudden, confused horror. He has no time to move, no time to even raise his hands. The yardarm, a solid beam of oak weighing more than 3 men, swings down and catches him square across the chest and neck, smashing him against the ship's railing with a sickening final crunch of bone and cartilage. The heavy jug of rum flies from his hand, shattering on the deck. Silence. A profound, absolute silence falls over the quarterdeck, broken only by the gentle creak of the ship and the soft lapping of waves against the hull. The sun has finally vanished below the horizon, plunging the deck into a deep, purple twilight. Blackheart Bill is gone, a broken shape slumped over the railing, pinned by the instrument of his own execution. The duel is over. Henry and Rowan stand in the center of the circle, chests heaving, their bodies slick with sweat. They don't look at each other. They slowly, deliberately lower their cutlasses. There is no victor. There is no vanquished. There was never supposed to be. The crew stares, their faces slack with shock and disbelief. They are a pack that has just witnessed its alpha devoured by a force it cannot comprehend. Their bloodlust has curdled into fear. It is Henry who breaks the spell. He turns away from Rowan, his back to the dead first mate, and faces the stunned crew. He raises his cutlass, its tip pointing to the darkening sky. His voice, when he speaks, is not the gruff tone of a sailing master. It is the clear, ringing voice of command. The first mate has suffered a tragic accident. He declares, each word a hammer blow, forging a new reality. His carelessness has cost him his life. The laws of the sea are clear. In the absence of the first mate, command falls to the next ranking officer. He pauses, letting the weight of his words settle on them. That officer is me. Until the captain decides otherwise, I am in command of this ship. No one moves. No one speaks. He is rewriting their world, and they are too frightened to stop him. You remain by the mast, a ghost at the edge of the drama. The oilskin bundle suddenly feels different in your grasp. An hour ago, it was a weapon, a key to ultimate leverage. Now it is just a piece of a puzzle they have already solved without it. They didn't need a map to a king's secret. They just needed a rope, a yardarm, and the arrogance of a fool. They didn't need to out-scheme you for the prize. They simply changed the game to one they knew they could win. Their duel was a coup d'etat, executed with the brutal elegance of a master carpenter's joinery. And you, the master manipulator, the architect of this whole affair, have been rendered a spectator. You are standing alone, holding a secret that may no longer matter, on a ship that is no longer yours. The power has shifted, and you are on the wrong side of it. Henry moves with a predator's confidence, his orders cutting through the crew's shocked stupor like a sharpened blade. He orders a detail to deal with Bill's body, a quiet splash in the dark water, an unceremonious end for a man who lived so loudly. He calls for the rum to be broken out, not in mourning, but in celebration of their lucky escape from a tyrannical first mate. He is turning a cold-blooded murder into a story of liberation, and the crew, frightened and leaderless, is desperate to believe him. They drink, their cheers sounding hollow and forced at first, then growing louder as the cheap rum works its magic, washing away the memory of the crunch of bone. Rowan, meanwhile, performs his own disappearing act. The cold-eyed killer who cut the rope vanishes, replaced once more by the clumsy, anxious servant. He scurries to do Henry's bidding, fetching mugs, his eyes downcast, his shoulders slumped. He is a ghost, hiding in plain sight. They are a perfectly balanced machine of force and subtlety, and you realize with a cold, sinking clarity that they planned this down to the last detail. The duel, the location, the conveniently placed sail, it was all a performance designed to seize the ship. Your little drama in the tavern was merely the overture they needed. The eyes of the crew slide towards you. You feel their gazes, a mixture of fear and suspicion. They remember you. You were the one who stood up first, the one who lit the fuse. Are you with the new regime, or are you another loose end to be tied off and tossed overboard? The space around you at the mizzenmast has widened into a circle of isolation. You are an unknown variable, and in this world, the unknown is always dangerous. You need to get out of sight. You slip away from the quarterdeck, melting into the shadows you know so well. Your feet carry you down the companionway, past drunken sailors already celebrating their new master, to the one place on this ship that is truly yours, your workshop. The door closes behind you, shutting out the strained revelry, and the familiar scent of pine tar, cedar shavings, and salt-seasoned oak settles around you like a shroud. This is your sanctuary. This is where you think. Your hands, slick with a cold sweat, pull the oilskin bundle from your shirt. You spread the contents on your workbench under the steady glow of your personal lantern. The vellum map feels ancient, brittle. The spidery Spanish script of the journal seems to mock you. You stare at it, your mind racing, replaying the scene in the rented room. Henry's eyes burning with avarice. Rowan's professional calm shattering into the panic of a spy out of his depth. They outplayed you. They seized the ship. But they made a mistake. They revealed their hands, their true motivations, and in doing so they revealed their ignorance. Henry thinks this is about a fortune. He spoke of the real prize, the words dripping with the lust for gold. Rowan thinks this is a state secret to be delivered to his governor, a political chit to be played. They are both wrong. They saw the lock, but they have no idea what's in the box. You trace the name on the journal's cover. La Flota Perdida de la Verdad, the lost fleet of truth. You are a carpenter, a builder. You know the value of a solid foundation. And the foundation of this entire conspiracy, the very thing that gives this map its world-altering power, is the truth. A truth you suspect you are the only one on this ship who has taken the time to fully understand. They have the vessel, but you hold the charts to their final destination. This is your leverage. This is your way back into the game. You cannot let them sail. Not until they understand the stakes. You tear a small strip from a spare piece of parchment. You dip a charcoal nub in water, and, in your neatest, most deliberate script, you write 3 words. El Códice Secreto. The secret codicil. You fold the note, find a young cabin boy you've been kind to in the past, a scared rat of a lad named Pip, and press a copper coin into his small hand. Take this to the new first mate, you murmur, your voice low and urgent. To Henry Every. Give it to him and no one else. Say only that the carpenter has a question about the cargo. Quote, the boy's eyes are wide, but he nods, clutching the coin and the note before scurrying off into the ship's dark bowels. You wait. The minutes stretch, measured by the groaning of the ship's timbers and the distant, muffled sounds of the crew's drinking. You are coiling the spring, setting a new trap. Finally, you hear footsteps approaching. Not Pip's light patter, but 2 distinct sets of heavy, deliberate footfalls. The door to your workshop swings open without a knock. Henry stands there, filling the doorway, his face a thundercloud. Behind him, lurking in the shadows of the passageway, is Rowan. They are a united front once more. This is not the time for games, Nellie, Henry snarls, stepping inside. He crumples the note in his fist. Whatever share you think you're owed, we can discuss it later. For now, you will do your job and keep your mouth shut. My job, you say, your voice calm, is to make sure this ship doesn't founder because its new officers are too stupid to read a chart. You don't get up from your stool. You make him come to you, to your space. You're a fine sailor, cousin, but you are sailing blind. And you flick your eyes past him to Rowan, are a fine actor, but your script ended when Bill died. You're improvising now, and you're about to get us all killed. Rowan steps into the light, his face pale but his eyes hard. The frightened servant is gone again. The disposition of this asset is a matter for the crown, he says, his voice crisp and official. You will surrender the map and journal to me. Will I? You laugh, a short, sharp sound that holds no humor. You think you can sail this ship into Kingston Harbor, hand this to your portly governor, and collect a pat on the head? The Spanish know this map exists. Men like Bill don't find secrets like this without leaving a trail. They will have agents everywhere. The moment you get within a league of a friendly port, you'll have a Spanish frigate's cannons making a new door in your hull. Quote, you turn your gaze back to Henry. And you think you can sail off to these silent isles, fill your hold with treasure, and live the rest of your life as a king? There is no silver in those wrecks, Henry. No gold. Nothing but rot and barnacles. Quote, you're lying, Henry says, but the conviction has drained from his voice. The seed of doubt you planted with the note is beginning to sprout. Am I? You say, tapping the open journal on your workbench. You were in such a hurry to steal a ship, you never bothered to read the manifest. This isn't the Silver Fleet. It's the Fleet of Truth. It was carrying the original treaties that divided this half of the world between Spain and Portugal, and a secret addendum, a codicil, that grants Spain legal title to half of England's colonies. This map doesn't lead to a fortune you can spend. It leads to a legal document that could erase England from the Americas. It's a declaration of war waiting at the bottom of the sea. The silence in the workshop is absolute. The weight of your words presses down on them, heavier than any yardarm. Rowan looks physically ill, as if he's just swallowed poison. His mission to recover a politically valuable map has just escalated into a crisis that could shatter the empire he serves. Henry stares at the journal, his face a mask of disbelief, his dream of endless riches evaporating before his eyes. But then, a new light dawns in his eyes, not avarice for gold, but the far more dangerous hunger for power. A war, he whispers, the words tasting strange and wonderful in his mouth. A war, you confirm. One we would be at the dead center of. The Spanish will kill to get this back. The English will kill to possess it. And every pirate on the sea will kill to sell it to the highest bidder. You lean forward, your hands flat on the workbench. So this is our situation. You nod to Henry, have a ship full of drunk, restless men who will turn on you the moment they realize there's no treasure. You look at Rowan, have a secret too big for your masters, one that will get you hanged as a traitor if you make one wrong move. And I, you say, your voice dropping to a low, intense pitch, am the only one who has read the full story. I am the only one who knows the specifics of Captain Mendoza's final days, the nature of the islands, the methods he used to scuttle his fleet. You need a navigator, and you need a spy. But more than anything, you need a carpenter who knows how to salvage a secret from a watery grave. Quote, you let the truth of it settle over them. You are not asking for a place at their table. You are telling them that you are the table. We are no longer just cousins or adversaries, you conclude, looking from one to the other. We are partners, a triumvirate. We share the risk, we share the command, and we share the reward, whatever that may be. Agreed? Quote, Henry and Rowan look at each other. The rivalry between them is still there, a simmering resentment, but it is overshadowed by a new, terrifying understanding. They are trapped with each other and trapped with you. Before either of them can answer, a frantic pounding rattles the workshop door. First Mate Every, sir, on deck! It's the lookout's panicked voice. Henry wrenches the door open. The sailor, a wiry man named Silas, stumbles in, his eyes wide with fear. A ship, sir? Just entered the bay. A sloop, fast-moving. She's dropped anchor at the mouth of the channel. She's flying no colors. You feel a chill crawl up your spine. It's starting. The race is on. She's blocking us in, Henry says, his voice a low growl. His eyes meet yours over the lookout's head. In them, you see not just greed or ambition, but the grim recognition of a man who has just realized the game is real and the hunters are already at the door. Your fragile, poisonous new alliance has just been forged, and its first test is already upon you. You, Henry, and Rowan are a tableau of frozen distrust in the cramped, cedar-scented workshop. The lookout's panicked warning hangs in the air, a lit fuse. Henry is the first to move. He shoves past the sailor and storms out, his voice already booming across the deck, barking orders to weigh anchor, to make sail. The hunter's instinct has taken over. The ship is his territory, and he will not be caged. Rowan darts a look at you, his face a mask of cold calculation. The fear is gone, replaced by the grim focus of a professional whose operation has just been compromised. They can't know, he hisses, his voice low. Not the specifics. They must be acting on the same rumors as me. An echo of Bill's drunken boasting. Rumors don't send a war sloop to bottle up a port, you counter, gathering the map and journal from your workbench. The feel of the oilskin is a cold reminder of the danger in your hands. Someone knows more than you think. Quote, you follow them onto the deck. The feigned revelry has died instantly, replaced by the controlled chaos of a crew preparing for a fight or flight. The night air is cool, but a hot tension radiates from the men as they scramble up the rigging and man the capstan. Henry stands at the helm, a dark silhouette against the star-dusted sky, his eyes fixed on the mouth of the bay where the mysterious sloop sits like a patient predator. She's blocking the deep channel, he growls as you approach. We'll be a sitting duck by the time we clear the sandbar. He's stating the obvious, testing you, waiting to see what you bring to this new cursed partnership. Your carpenter's mind works in channels and drafts, in the secret depths of things. You know the floor of this bay, as well as you know the grain of the ship's keel. There's another way, you say, your voice just loud enough for him and the nearby Rowan to hear over the groaning capstan. The old smuggler's passage, north of the sandbar. It's a dogleg, shallow, lined with coral teeth. A ship of the line would tear her guts out, but us, we draw 16 feet. At high tide, we'll have a foot of water to spare beneath our keel. Quote, Henry looks at you, a flicker of grudging respect in his eyes. He understands the risk. One mistake, one miscalculation of the tide, and you'll be stranded, helpless. And the tide? Quote, turns in less than an hour, you reply. It's now or never. He holds your gaze for a long moment, the fate of the ship and its crew hanging in the silent space between you. He's the commander, but you have the knowledge. It's the first true test of your triumvirate. Finally, he gives a sharp, curt nod. Make it so, Master Carpenter, he says, turning back to the helm. You call the depths. Your life on it. Quote, the anchor comes free with a great splash. With only the foresail and jib to catch the light breeze, the sea serpent turns, ghosting away from the main channel. The men are silent, confused, their fear a palpable thing. They can all see the sloop, a darker patch of night on the water, and they know you are sailing away from the only safe passage. You stand at the prow, a lantern held low over the side, your eyes scanning the dark water for the subtle ripples and shadows that mark the treacherous path. Rowan stands near the shrouds, a captured spyglass to his eye, watching the other ship. They've noticed, he reports, his voice tight. They're weighing anchor. Too late, Henry's voice booms from the stern. The tide is with us. Helmsman, hard to port on my mark. Quote, you guide them through the watery maze, your voice a calm, steady instrument in the symphony of tension. Starboard 10 degrees. Easy now, hold her. Clear the black rock on the port side. Every command is a prayer. You can feel the ship's bottom scraping the very edge of disaster. The sound of the hull just kissing a coral head sends a shudder through the deck and a spike of ice through your veins. Finally, with a collective exhale from the few who understand the danger, you slide into the deeper water of the open sea. You've escaped the bottle, but you are not free. Behind you, the sloop has cleared the bay and is setting a cloud of canvas. She is built for speed, her lines lean and hungry. The chase is on. The next 3 days are a blur of salt spray, strained ropes, and sleepless vigilance. You exist on hardtack, watered-down rum, and the nervous energy of the hunted. The strange sloop is a persistent ghost on your stern, always there, just at the edge of the horizon. She is faster, but Henry is a more cunning sailor. He uses every squall line, every current, every rocky islet as a shield, forcing her to take the long way around while you cut the corner. It's a deadly game of chess played across 1,000 square leagues of water. The triumvirate is a quiet, simmering poison. You meet in the captain's cabin each day, the three of you, a triangle of hostile necessity. Henry, exhausted and grim, wants to run for the Silent Isles, trusting in his skill to outrun the pursuer. Rowan, ever the agent, argues for a course towards the lawless pirate havens of the Bahamas, hoping to lose your tail in the maze of shallow cays. And then what? You challenge him, your hand resting on the precious map laid out on the table. Announce our presence to 1,000 cutthroats, all of whom would sell their own mothers for a hint of a prize like this. That's not a plan, it's suicide. It's better than leading them directly to the target. Rowan shoots back, his knuckles white where he grips the table's edge. We don't run, you declare, your gaze locking with Henry's. We make them lose us. You point to a cluster of islands on the chart. The Serpent's Teeth. Uncharted storms this time of year, a graveyard for ships with captains less skilled than ours. You look pointedly at Henry. We turn into the weather. We use the storm as our cloak. Quote, Henry studies the chart, his brow furrowed. He understands the logic, the brutal calculus of it. To risk the ship to save the ship. It's a fool's gamble, he says, but there's a gleam in his eye. He's a man who loves to wrestle with the sea. Before he can agree, the sky darkens with unnatural speed. The wind, which had been a steady companion, dies completely. The air grows heavy, thick, charged with a greenish, eerie light. The sea turns to oily rolling glass. On deck! Henry roars, shoving past you both. All hands! We didn't find the storm, it found us. Quote, the squall hits not as wind, but as a solid wall of water. The world dissolves into a roaring, gray chaos. Rain comes down in horizontal sheets, so dense you can barely breathe. Waves like liquid mountains rise up, lifting the sea serpent to their crests before dropping her sickeningly into the trough. The deck is a torrent of white water, and the wind screams through the rigging like a banshee. This is your element. While others fight the sea, you work with it, tending to the vessel that is your only salvation. You are everywhere, directing the crew to secure loose gear, checking the pumps, your hammer and spikes ready to mend any break. Henry is a rock at the helm, his knuckles raw, his face lashed by spray, fighting the wheel with every ounce of his strength to keep the ship from broaching. In the heart of the chaos, you see Rowan. He isn't cowering, he's working, hauling on a line with a handful of other sailors, his face a grim mask of determination. He is not a sailor, but he is a survivor. For a moment, watching him struggle against the wind, you feel a sliver of something that isn't contempt. As the storm rages, a terrifying crack echoes over the howling wind. One of the mainmast's backstays, weakened in the duel, snaps under the immense pressure. The great mast shudders, threatening to come crashing down. I need men! You scream, your voice torn away by the gale. You grab a coil of heavy rope, your mind already working, calculating the splices and knots needed to secure it. It's then, as you turn, that you see it. Your workshop door, which you had barred, is swinging wildly on its hinges. It had been forced open. A cold dread, colder than the seawater soaking your clothes, washes over you. The map. You abandon the stay, trusting your crew to handle it. You fight your way across the lurching, treacherous deck. Inside your workshop, your tools have been thrown everywhere. The secret panel you'd constructed behind a crate of spare canvas, a false bottom only you knew about, is pried open, its lid splintered. The oilskin bundle is gone. Betrayal. Swift and absolute. Your first thought is Rowan, the spy. It had to be. But as you turn to leave, your eyes catch a dark shape on the floor, half hidden under your workbench. It's a marlinspike. But it's not yours. Yours is on your belt. This one is larger. Its wooden handle worn smooth in a distinct pattern. You've seen it 1,000 times, hanging from a leather lanyard on Henry's belt. The blood freezes in your veins, Henry. He's at the helm, fighting for all their lives, a hero in the storm. And he chose this moment, when all eyes were on the sea, to have one of his loyal men steal the prize. You stumble back out onto the deck, the rain and spray blinding you. The world has tilted on its axis. The storm is no longer just outside the ship. It is within its very heart. You see Henry at the wheel, a titan wrestling with the sea, and all you see is a common thief. You look for Rowan, finding him still struggling with the line, and see not a spy, but a man who is, at this moment, fighting for the same thing you are. Survival. The ship gives a violent lurch, throwing you against the railing. The great, unsecured mast groans, threatening to give way. The immediate danger, the physical peril of the storm, forces the betrayal into a small, hot corner of your mind. You can't confront him now. To distract him from the helm would be to kill them all. You grab a rope and get to work, your hands moving with practiced surety. your mind a cold, clear chamber of rage. You will save this ship, you will survive this storm, and then, when the sun rises, you will have a reckoning with your cousin. You are no longer partners in a triumvirate. You are opponents in a new, far more personal duel, and you realize with chilling certainty that the enemy chasing you across the Caribbean is nothing compared to the one standing right behind you. The storm breaks as suddenly as it began. One moment, the world is a churning vortex of gray and white. The next, the wind falls away to a whisper. The mountainous waves subside into a queasy, rolling swell, and the sun pierces the bruised clouds with pale, watery fingers of light. The sea serpent is still afloat, but she is a broken thing. The mainmast is a jagged stump, secured by your desperate web of ropes. The deck is a wasteland of splintered wood and torn canvas. Men slump against the railings, exhausted, their faces hollowed out by fear and exertion. You stand amidst the wreckage, your rage a cold, hard knot in your belly. The pursuing sloop is gone, vanished, likely swallowed by the storm it hoped you would perish in. You are alive, but you are adrift, a cripple on an empty sea. And you have been robbed. Henry is still at the helm, his hair plastered to his skull, his face etched with fatigue. He shouts orders, his voice raw, assessing the damage, setting a course. He does not look at you. He does not need to. You feel his awareness of you like a physical pressure, an unspoken challenge across the length of the ruined deck. The marlinspike, his marlinspike, feels impossibly heavy in your pocket. You say nothing. Not yet. Confrontation is a tool, and the time to wield it is not now. Now is for survival. Days pass in a haze of grueling labor. Under your direction, the crew works to jury-rig a new mast, to patch the sails, to repair the battered hull. A tense, unspoken truce settles over the ship. You, Henry, and Rowan move around each other like wary predators forced to share a cage. Henry holds command, but he needs your skill to keep the ship from sinking. Rowan, his spy-like composure shattered by the theft of the map, has become quiet and watchful, his eyes darting between you and Henry, trying to calculate the new, deadly algebra of your alliance. He knows something is broken, but not what. He suspects you. One dawn, after a week of limping across an endless blue desert, you see them. A smudge on the horizon, rising from the sea like jagged teeth. A chain of black, volcanic islands, wreathed in a perpetual mist, exactly as Captain Mendoza's journal had described them. You had read his words over and over in Bill's cabin, burning them into your memory. He wrote not just of the location, but of the approach. A high, twin-peaked island he called the Widow's Horns, and a deep channel that led into a sheltered heart. You approach Henry at the helm. There, you say, pointing. Las Islas del Silencio. Quote. He squints, his face unreadable. He has the map, but without the journal, it's just a drawing. He doesn't know the landmarks. You're certain? Quote. The journal described the approach. You lie smoothly, claiming knowledge you know he can't verify. A blind man could find it with Mendoza's words. His eyes narrow. He knows you're holding something back, but his greed and the desperate state of the ship leave him no choice. He needs a safe harbor to make proper repairs. He gives the order to alter course. As you draw closer, an unnatural quiet descends. The islands are stark and lifeless, sheer cliffs of black rock plunging into water of an impossible deep blue. No birds circle the peaks. No vegetation softens the harsh lines. It feels like a place that time forgot. You guide Henry through the narrow channel, your instructions clipped and precise, drawn from the vivid picture in your memory. The ship rounds a final headland, and the entire crew falls silent. You have sailed into a cathedral of the dead. Before you lies a perfectly circular caldera, a vast, tranquil lagoon, ringed by towering volcanic cliffs that block all wind and weather. The water is as still and clear as black glass. And beneath its surface you see them. 5 of them. The lost fleet. They are perfectly preserved in the cold, deep, airless water. Masts still intact, rigging hanging like ghostly cobwebs. They rest on the sandy bottom, not scattered wrecks, but a formation, a fleet, waiting for an admiral's order that will never come. The sight is beautiful and profoundly terrifying. Awe and a primal dread wash over the deck in a silent, invisible wave. Henry stares, his breath caught in his throat. You can see the avarice in his eyes turn to a kind of religious reverence. Rowan is beside you, his face ashen. "My God," he whispers, "it's all real." The anchor is dropped, the splash echoing like a sacrilege in the profound silence. There is no need for discussion. A dive must be made. You, as the one who understands ship construction, must lead it. You choose two of the steadiest hands, and to everyone's surprise, Rowan insists on coming. "The documents may be fragile," he says, his voice tight with a scholar's anxiety. "I must be there to ensure their preservation." It's a flimsy excuse, but you understand. He cannot let you and Henry control the narrative. As you prepare the diving bell, a crude contraption of a weighted barrel with a connected air hose, you feel Henry's eyes on you. He pulls you aside. "Find the captain's strongbox," he murmurs, his voice low and hungry. "Nothing else matters." "The map won't do you much good down there, cousin," you reply, your voice laced with ice. You pat the pocket where you keep his marlinspike. He sees the motion, and for the first time a flicker of genuine fear crosses his face. The game is afoot. The descent is a slow journey into another world. The water is cold, and the silence is absolute, broken only by the rasp of your own breathing. The sunken ships grow larger, their silent decks passing just feet away. You steer the bell towards the largest, the fleet's flagship, its name still faintly visible on the stern, Verdad. Truth. You land softly on its main deck. The wood is coated in a thin layer of silt, but is miraculously solid. You move through the eerie, water-filled corridors, your lanterns cutting beams through the gloom. The ship is a time capsule. You see a wine glass still resting on a table, a sextant left on a chart table, as if the crew had simply vanished. You find the captain's cabin. The door is slightly ajar. Inside, the scene is one of ordered stillness. And there, against the far wall, is a large iron-banded sea chest, Henry's strongbox. Beside it, however, is another, smaller chest, made of a dark, unfamiliar wood and bound not in iron, but in intricately carved silver. Working together, you and Rowan manage to pry open the large iron chest. It is filled with lead tubes, sealed with wax. Rowan opens one with trembling hands. Inside, perfectly preserved, is a rolled vellum parchment covered in official seals, the treaties. He looks at you, his eyes wide with the magnitude of his success. But you are not looking at him. Your attention is on the second chest. It is not locked. You lift the heavy lid. A faint, spicy floral scent, trapped for over a century, fills the water around you. It does not contain gold or silver. It is filled with smaller, lacquered boxes and dozens of leather-bound books. You open one of the boxes. Inside, nestled on black velvet, are dried plants and flowers you have never seen, their colors still vibrant, their shapes alien. In another, there are strange, crystalline seeds that seem to pulse with a faint, internal light. Rowan has forgotten the treaties. He is beside you, staring. "What is all this?" he breathes, his voice tinny through the speaking tube. Your hands go to the books. They are not ship's logs. The script is not Spanish. It is a complex, elegant calligraphy of symbols and pictograms. You open the largest one. The pages are filled with anatomical drawings of breathtaking detail, far beyond any European science. Illustrations of the human circulatory system, the nervous system, the very cells of the body. Beside them are drawings of the strange plants from the boxes, with notes showing how they interact with the human form. This is not just medicine. This is a complete rewriting of the rules of life and death. At the bottom of the chest you find one final book. It is a thin, private journal, bound in simple leather, and the writing is Mendoza's, his final, secret log, the one he never meant for anyone but God to read. You open it. Your Spanish is functional, but his words are plain, stark, with a terror that transcends language. He tells the truth. The fleet of truth. They had found it, not a city of gold, but an island civilization hidden from the world, whose people, the Silencios, had achieved a perfect harmony with nature. They had no greed, no war. They had a deep, fundamental understanding of biology, of life itself, that the old world would have called witchcraft. They could heal any disease, mend any wound, extend life. They were not gods, but they were masters of the flesh. Mendoza, a man of his time, saw it as a power to be claimed for his king, a weapon greater than any army. Against the counsel of his own scholars, he took some of the Silencios, along with their sacred texts and samples aboard his fleet. A prize for Spain. but he had desecrated a holy place, and he had unleashed a curse. A sickness, dormant in the island's fragile ecosystem, awoke. But it did not touch the Silencios. It touched only the Europeans. It was swift, merciless, and incurable by any Spanish medicine. It turned their own bodies against them. His men died screaming in their bunks. His final entries are a frantic, desperate confession. The treaties were a lie, a cover story for his superiors. The real mission was to bring this power back. He realized too late that this power, this truth, was not for them. It was a key that did not fit their lock. To bring it to Europe would be to bring an apocalypse. It would be a plague that could not be stopped. So he sailed his fleet of dying men to this isolated caldera. The scuttling was not to hide a secret from England. It was to protect the entire world from his own catastrophic arrogance. It was a quarantine. The greatest act of his life was not discovery, but concealment. You look up from the journal, the water around you seeming to press in, heavy with the weight of this revelation, the power of the forgotten. It is the power of a cure for every ill, and the power of a plague that could wipe out nations. It is a choice that should never be given to men like you. You surface into the late afternoon sun, climbing onto the deck of the Sea Serpent, dripping and cold. Rowan follows, his face pale and stricken. Henry is there, waiting, his eyes burning with impatience. "Well," he demands, "where is it?" Quote, "You say nothing. You simply hold up Captain Mendoza's private journal. Not the treaties, not the strange plants, just this one, thin book. You look at your cousin, at the greedy thief who betrayed you in a storm, who thinks this is about a king's ransom. You look at Rowan, the government agent who thinks this is about shifting borders and political advantage. They are children, squabbling over a painted rock, with no idea of the dragon's egg they hold. The prize isn't what you think it is, Henry, you say, your voice unnervingly calm. The truth is a little more complicated. You now hold the real map, the real power, and you have a choice to make. To rebury this terrible secret forever, or to unleash it upon a world that is not ready, and watch it burn." Henry's face, a mask of avaricious hope, crumples into a sneer of disbelief. He takes a step forward, his hand half reaching for the small leather book, as if he could snatch the truth out of it. "Enough of your games, Nellie. The treaties, the silver bindings. That is the prize." Quote, "Is it?" you ask, your voice dangerously quiet in the profound stillness of the caldera. You hold his gaze, letting the weight of the moment press down on him. "The prize is a plague, Henry. A cure for every ailment known to man, and the disease that comes with it. A power that made a Spanish admiral so terrified he sank 5 ships to hide it from the world. From men like him. From men like us." You turn your head slowly, including Rowan in your judgment. He looks like a man who has just seen the face of God and found it to be a leering skull. The professional spy has vanished, replaced by a horrified scholar who understands the implications far faster than your cousin. "Back to the cabin," you command, your tone leaving no room for argument. "All of us. Now." The walk back to the captain's quarters is the longest of your life. The crew, sensing a shift in the currents of power, gives you a wide berth. In the cramped cabin, the 3 of you stand around the table, a hostile trinity bound by a secret that could boil the oceans. You toss Mendoza's journal onto the wood between them. It lands with a soft, final thud. "He found an island civilization," you begin, your voice flat, reciting the facts as you would the dimensions for a new mast. "One that had mastered the art of healing. They could mend flesh, cure disease, extend life. Mendoza saw it as a weapon, a prize for his king. He took samples, he took people. He didn't understand that he was breaking a quarantine." You pause, letting the word hang in the stale air. "The sickness that followed killed every Spaniard in his fleet, but spared the islanders." He realized his folly. This power, this truth he was chasing, was poison to our blood. He sank his fleet not to hide a treasure, but to bury a plague. Rowan slumps into a chair, his face buried in his hands. "The codicil was a lie," he mutters. "The whole story was a fabrication to justify his mission to the crown if he returned." Quote, "And the treasure?" Henry's voice is a low, guttural rasp. He still clings to the hope of riches, the only language he truly understands. "The silver, the medicine?" Quote, It's all down there, you say, gesturing towards the deck, along with the treaties, which were just a convenient fiction. But the real prize, the thing you stole this for. You reach into your pocket and pull out his marlinspike, dropping it onto the table next to the journal. It clatters loudly, an accusation made of wood and steel. Is a death sentence. For you, for all of us, for anyone who brings it back. Henry flinches as if you'd struck him. He looks at the spike, then at your face, and the last of his blustering arrogance collapses. He sees that you know. Nellie, Don't, you cut him off, your voice hard as iron. Don't you dare try to justify it. In the middle of that storm, with all our lives hanging by a thread you were meant to be guarding, you sent one of your men to steal from me, to betray me. You were at the helm, playing the hero, while your knife was in my back. Quote, the shame that washes over his face is real, a deep, burning crimson. I thought you were going to cut me out, he says, his voice low. I saw the way you looked at the map. I thought you'd take it for yourself. So you became the very thing you accused me of being, you say, the bitterness a sharp taste in your mouth. We stand here, on the edge of a discovery that could end the world, and all you could think about was your share. You are your father's son after all, Henry. Not a coward. No, something worse. A man who would sell the world for a piece of it. Quote, the words strike him harder than any physical blow. He sinks onto a crate, his powerful shoulders slumping in defeat. The silence in the cabin is thick with the ghosts of your shared past and the terrifying shadow of your future. It is Rowan who finally speaks, his voice muffled by his hands. It has to be destroyed. All of it. We put it back. We take the treaties, deliver them to the governor as planned. The rest must be buried again. Forever. It is the only sane choice. Sane? Henry scoffs, a spark of his old self returning. We have the cure for everything in our grasp. The power to end sickness, to save lives. You want to just throw it away because of the ravings of a terrified Spaniard? Quote, he wasn't raving, he was confessing, Rowan fires back, lifting his head. His eyes are wild with a zealot's terror. This knowledge isn't ours to have. Can you imagine what the English crown would do with it? What the Spanish would? What any man would? They would weaponize it. They would turn the cure into a plague and hold the world ransom. Mendoza was right. This is a key that must not be turned. Quote, they argue, their voices rising, filling the small space with the clash of their philosophies. Henry the pragmatist sees only the potential for power and wealth, unable to accept that the prize is poisoned. Rowan the idealist sees only the apocalypse, the terrible moral certainty of absolute destruction. You listen, your mind a quiet space amidst their storm. You look down at the marlinspike, then at the journal. You think of the world you know, the grime of Port Royal, the casual cruelty of men like Blackheart Bill, the short, brutal lives of the men on this very deck. You're both wrong, you say, and your quiet voice cuts through their argument like a blade. They fall silent, turning to you. Henry, you're a fool if you think you can control this. We can't even control a bar fight in a tavern. You think we can manage the fate of nations? This power would consume you before you ever left this caldera. You turn your gaze to Rowan. And you. You think destroying it makes us noble? We would be no better than Mendoza's father, the magistrate who stood by and did nothing. To know that a power exists that could end the suffering of millions, and to hide it out of fear, that is not sanity, Rowan. It is cowardice. You stand up, walking to the small window that looks out over the impossible, tranquil lagoon. The setting sun paints the black cliffs in hues of blood and gold. This is your legacy, not the discovery, but the decision. The choice you make now will ripple through time long after the sea serpent has rotted into dust. A sense of profound, lonely clarity settles over you. We cannot keep it, you say, turning back to them. And we cannot destroy it. But we can preserve it. We will leave the plants, the seeds, the scientific texts. We leave the plague and the cure locked together in their tomb. We take one thing, and one thing only. Quote, you reach down and pick up Mendoza's private journal. We take the truth, the story. We replace the treaties in the chest with ballast stones. We sink the silver-bound box with them. The only thing we bring back from this place is this warning. And what do we do with it? Henry asks, his voice barely a whisper. We create a new map, you explain, your plan solidifying as you speak. A map not to a treasure, but to a quarantine, We create a legend, a story, a myth of a cursed fleet and a haunted island chain, so terrifying that no sane sailor will ever dare to come here. We become the first guardians of the Silent Isles. We take this journal, and we lock it away, to be passed down, a secret held in trust, a legacy of restraint. It is a choice that satisfies no one and saves everyone. It denies Henry his power, and it forces Rowan to live with the knowledge of a hidden miracle. It is a burden, a life sentence of vigilance. It is, you realize, the only path that is not monstrous. For a long time, no one speaks. The weight of your proposal settles upon them. It is Henry who finally breaks the silence. He stands up, walks to the table, and picks up his marlinspike. He looks at it, then at you. "You're right, Nellie," he says, his voice thick with a humility you have never heard before. "About all of it." He extends the spike to you, handle first. "It's yours, as a promise. From this day on, we sail by your chart. You take it. The transfer is a peace treaty, a reforging of your broken bond, now tempered with a terrible shared truth." That evening, as twilight turns the water to ink, the three of you row a small skiff back out over the flagship. You do not use the diving bell. Henry, the strongest among you, takes a deep breath and dives into the cold, clear water, carrying a weighted sack. He is gone for a long time. When he surfaces, gasping, he has done as you asked. The treaties are gone, replaced by stones. The chest of secrets is back in its tomb. You sail with the morning tide, leaving the Silent Isles to their profound and terrible peace. The world outside the caldera feels loud, garish, and blissfully ignorant. As the last black peak of the Widow's Horns sinks below the horizon, you stand at the stern, watching it disappear. The adventure is over. The thrill of the chase, the joy of discovery, the sharp edges of betrayal. It all feels distant now, memories from another life. You feel a deep, aching melancholy for the simpler world you have left behind, the world you lived in before you knew what secrets the ocean kept. But mixed with that sadness is a quiet, solid sense of accomplishment. You did not find a fortune. You did not change the balance of power. You found something far more important, a moment of grace. You faced the ultimate temptation and chose restraint. Your actions have not changed the world, but have preserved it. You have forged a legacy not of conquest, but of silence. And that you know will live on long after your name and the name of the sea serpent have been forgotten by all but the wind and the waves. The world is different now, not because of what you found, but because of what you chose to leave behind.